In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful.
Among the many moments in the Quran that stop the heart and silence the tongue is the opening of Surah Qalam. Wal qalami wa ma yasturun. Nun, by the pen and what they inscribe. This single letter, Nun, stands alone. It is not explained directly. It is not followed by definition. It appears as a mystery placed at the doorway of revelation. From the earliest generations of Muslims, this letter drew the attention of the companions, the Tabi'in, and the great scholars of tafsir. They spoke about it carefully, sometimes affirming meanings, sometimes withholding certainty, and always approaching it with reverence. The letter Nun belongs to the group known as al-Urf al-Muqad, the disjointed letters that open certain chapters of the Quran. Yet Nun is unique among them. It does not come paired with other letters, and it appears at the opening of a chapter that immediately swears by the pen, linking it to creation, decree, and divine knowledge. This chapter examines what has been transmitted about Nun in Hadith and Tafsir, how the scholars understood it, and why its silence carries weight. The nature of the disjointed letters. Before addressing Nun itself, the scholars laid a foundation. Letters such as Aleph Lam Mim, with Makron Mim, Yasin, and Nun are part of the Quran, recited as revelation. They are not symbols added later, nor poetic devices borrowed from elsewhere. They are words recited by the Prophet, preserved in revelation, and written in the Mu'af. Imam Malik, Imam al-Shafi'i, and many others held that the ultimate meaning of these letters rests with Allah alone. This position does not deny that explanations were transmitted. Rather, it affirms that none of those explanations can be asserted with absolute certainty unless supported by sound revelation. This balance, transmission without overclaim, defines how Nun was approached. Narrations attributed to Ibn Abbas. Among the companions, Abdul ibn Abbas is the most frequently cited regarding the interpretation of Nun. Several narrations are attributed to him, some stronger than others. One report states that Ibn Abbas said, Nun is the great fish upon which the earth rests. This narration appears in early tafsir works, such as those attributed to Al-Abar and others. According to this view, Allah created a vast creature, sometimes described as a fish or whale, and the earth was placed upon it, supported by divine command, not by the creature's strength itself. However, the scholars were careful. Many of these narrations come through weak chains or through Israeliyat, reports originating from Jewish or Christian sources that entered early Islamic storytelling. Imam Ibn Kathir, after mentioning such reports, clearly states that they cannot be affirmed as factual realities unless confirmed by sound revelation. Thus, while these narrations were mentioned, they were not treated as established doctrine. Nun as the ink or the inkwell. Another interpretation transmitted from early scholars is that Nun refers to the inkwell from which the pen writes. This view fits naturally with the oath that follows, by the pen and what they inscribe. Some scholars said, Nun is the inkwell, the pen is al-Qalam. What they inscribe is the divine decree written until the day of judgment. This explanation ties Nun directly into the cosmic act of writing destiny. In this reading, the opening of Surah Qalam becomes a unified image, the source of ink, the instrument of writing, and the written decree itself. While this view is often cited, it is again reported without a definitive, authentic hadith directly from the Prophet. It remains an explanation from the early generations, respected but not binding. Nun as a letter known only to Allah. Many of the greatest Mufassirin ultimately returned to a position of restraint. Imam Al-Abar, after listing several interpretations, stated that the strongest view is to say that Nun is a letter from the letters of the Quran, whose meaning Allah has not disclosed. Imam Al-Qurab echoed this sentiment. He explained that attempting to force a definitive meaning where Allah has remained silent risks speaking without knowledge. The presence of Nun itself is meaningful, even if its explanation is withheld. This position does not empty the letter of wisdom. On the contrary, it emphasizes a key principle. Revelation contains both clarity and humility. The servant accepts what is explained and submits where explanation is withheld. The connection between Nuin and the pen. What cannot be ignored is the deliberate pairing of Nuin with the pen. The pen, according to authentic hadith, was among the first creations. The Prophet said that Allah created the pen and commanded it to write everything that would occur until the last hour. This writing was not symbolic. It was real decree, preserved in the preserved tablet, Allah al-Mahf. When Surah Al-Qalam opens with Nuin and immediately swears by the pen, it places the reader at the beginning of creation's record. Whether Nuin is a letter, a created entity, or a symbol of divine knowledge, its presence prepares the listener for a discussion about truth, falsehood, and the moral responsibility of the Prophet. The chapter itself goes on to defend the character of the messenger against the accusations of the disbelievers. The oath at the beginning establishes that what follows is rooted in divine decree, not human opinion. Spiritual reflections from the scholars. Some scholars offered reflections rather than literal interpretations. They noted that Nuin is written as a curved form, enclosing a space, resembling containment and preservation. The dot within Nuin, mentioned by later spiritual writers, was sometimes described metaphorically as knowledge placed within creation. While such reflections appear in later works of Tawaf and Adab, the scholars were careful to distinguish reflection from tafsir. These meanings were never presented as the intended explanation of Allah, but as contemplations that draw the heart toward humility. Why Allah did not explain Nuin explicitly. One of the most profound lessons drawn from Nuin is not what it means, but why it remains partially veiled. The Quran was revealed to guide, not to satisfy every curiosity. Some matters strengthen faith through clarity. Others strengthen faith through submission. Nuin belongs to the second category. By opening a chapter with a letter that resists final explanation, Allah teaches the believer that knowledge has limits and reverence begins where certainty ends.